Hello and welcome to Spectrum News at 4. My name is Sai. President Buhari presides over 4th Council of State meeting. Senate approves 3.2 trillion naira revenue target for scene. Details of these stories and more in a moment. Muhammadu Buhari is presiding over the Council of State meeting at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. The ongoing Council of State, President STVNg, Secretary to the Government of the Federation Boss Mustafa, National Security Advisor Babagana Yakubu Gowon, and former President Goodluck Jonathan in attendance. Muhammadu Buhari to resign following the nation's security challenges, stressing that reforms in internal security will hold soon never be a solution to the nation's security problems. His stay in the Kaduna and Niger states axis, as well as in the Niger Delta region, in line with operation in the affected areas to achieve positive results. In another development, President Muhammadu Buhari has declined assent to the bill. Both chambers of the National Legislature on September 23, 2021 has been returned to the National Assembly by the Presidency. Presenting the bill for recommittal, Chairman of the House had further legislative action. Reports say the bill has been recommitted to the Committee of the Whole of the House of Representatives for reconsideration. Meanwhile, Senate has received and passage. The bills were accompanied by a letter read at the start of the plenary today by the Senate President Ahmed Lawan. Buhari, in a letter dated 12 April 2022, said the request for the passage of both bills was pursuant to the provisions of Section 58, subsection laundering, combating the financing of terrorism regime, make it imperative for the passage of both bills. Away from that, Director General and Chief Exec, the federal government, through Executive Order 5, has restricted the issuance of visas to certain foreign professionals. Ibrahim, who spoke during a media chat on the public presentation of indigenous software for the implementation of Executive Order 5, Ministry of Interior, recalled that Executive Order 5 was signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari on February 2, 2018, to promote local content in public procurement. To the legislature now, where the Senate yesterday approved 369.04 billion naira as budget for the Nigeria Customs Service (NCS) service in 2022. The budget approval followed consideration of a report by the Committee on Customs, Excise and Tariffs, led by the chairman of the committee, Francis Alimikena. Giving a highlight of the NCS budget, Alimikena, who explained this and vehicle identification number, stressed that the NCS, in collaboration with relevant government agencies, would pursue improved internally generated revenue by implementing the 2021 Finance Act, known as Petrol. The House also approved the reduction in crude oil production quota from 1.8 million barrels per day to 1.6 million barrels per day and a $73 oil price benchmark. Recall that President Muhammadu Buhari, judiciary, a three-man panel of the Court of Appeal Lagos Division, led by Justice Peter Afem, has upheld the appeal of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and dismissed the ruling of a federal high court in Lagos in the case involving a former executive director, Promo Don Parker Properties Limited and Building Associates Limited, on an amended 45-count charge bordering on conspiracy and money laundering to the tune of 3.6 billion naira for 2020, discharging the respondent of the money laundering charges and urged Ometsuli to enter into his defense accordingly on the same counts. Meanwhile, Justice Boma Diapiri of Rivers Cement Cletus Ibeto against the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and Daniel Chukwudozie. Justice Diapiri, who had earlier fixed Monday for the hearing, adjourned the hearing due to an application by Ibeto's lawyer, Onyechi Pazo, for more time to reply counter affidavits filed by the respondents, and directed the council's second respondent, Patrick Ikweto, urged the court to give them time to reply to the applicant's motions. Away from that, Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) has given the federal government a 21-day regional and associated institutions (NASU), Senior Staff Association of Nigeria Universities, and National Association of Academic Technologists. This was contained in a communique jointly signed by the NLC President Ayuba Waba and the Congress's General Secretary. Renegotiated agreement noted that after the ultimatum expires, the NLC will decide on the next line of action if the government fails to resolve the impasse. NLC therefore called on the federal government to immediately militating against industrial harmony in Nigeria's university system. Elsewhere, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency has said no fewer than 677 traffickers have been convicted and jailed between January and March 2022. NDLEA spokesperson Femi Babafemi in a statement said within the period on the review, a total of 891 kilograms of assorted drugs were seized. Reports say no fewer than 2,223 drug users were also counseled through brief interventions and rehabilitation in NDLEA facilities across the country in the first quarter of the year. Maritime Administration and Safety Agency to recommend Nigeria's anti-piracy law to other member countries. Secretary General of the MOCA, Dr. Paul Adaliku, said this in Lagos when he visited the Director General of NIMASA, Dr. Bashe Jamo. Adaliku, who lauded the act as effective legislation that has redefined the fight against maritime crimes in the country. Elsewhere, officials of Nigeria's Immigration Service (NIS) have arrested an American citizen with firearms at the Murtala Mohammed Airport, Lagos. The male passenger who arrived in the country aboard a United Airlines flight from Houston, United States, was said to have checked in the firearms. He was also said to be in possession of 2 international passports, Nigerian and American. Reports say the American. In another development, Amnesty International's Nigeria Director Osai Ajigo says Nigeria is failing to protect vulnerable children by refusing to respond to alerts of impending attacks on schools across the north. A report by the body noted that the recent upsurge in abductions, a rise in child marriage and pregnancies of school-age girls. The group therefore called on Nigerian authorities to urgently comply with the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, to which it is a state party, and take concrete steps to prevent abduction of children and ensure that those suspected of criminal responsibility face justice in strategic stakeholders in furtherance of his presidential bid by visiting 2 former heads of state, retired General Ibrahim Babangida and General Abdul Salam Abubakar in Minna. Speaking during the visit, the governor intimated the elder statesman of his vision for a better Nigeria defined by a revamped economy, security of lives and property, and durable infrastructure. On their parts, both former leaders congratulated him for his courage in stepping into the ring and prayers. Meanwhile, Governor Damimanio has consulted the Senate and House of Representatives over his presidential ambition, thus receiving a nod of members of the PDP caucus in both chambers for his performance in office for the past nearly 7 years. In separate consultations in Abuja, Governor Emmanuel told the federal lawmakers that his decision to throw his hat into the ring urged him to run. During his January 7, 2022 appearance on their program, he said several Nigerians who listened to the media interview contributed money and helped purchase the presidential nomination forms, urging him to run. Governor Emmanuel told the lawmakers that he decided to run because he believes in his capacity to make Nigeria safe. Minority Leader Senator Enyinnaya Baribe. Governor Emmanuel was appreciated for the pace of development he has brought to Akwa Ibom through industrialization and infrastructural development. Subsequently, Governor Emmanuel was asked to take a bow while the lawmakers applauded him. The governor was accompanied by several Akwa Ibom PDP stakeholders who had earlier in the day accompanied the preferred candidate for the state's governorship race, Pastor Moino. Nigerians have been advised to reduce bush burning and other activities that release carbon monoxide into the atmosphere, causing climate change. This was reiterated in an address to mark World Health Day themed Our Planet, Our Health. A correspondent has a report.
Certain behavioral patterns like burning fossil fuels, bush burning, and activities that release carbon monoxide, and which is known as climate change and its impact on the Earth's weather pattern. According to the World Health Organization, 80% of climate change affects vulnerable, the elderly population, low-income communities and children, as well as impacts access to healthcare services and infrastructure. With Africa's population projected to grow to 2.5, crisis is the biggest threat facing humanity, and encouraged them to urgently initiate adaptation and mitigation actions. The Minister of State for Health, Olorunimbe Mamora, during his address to mark the 2022 World Health Day, themed Our Planet, Our Health, expressed concerns that the current environment is causing profound disruptions in the global economy. He noted that urgent actions need to be taken to safeguard the planet, advised against the use of fossil fuels and its exploration. He further encouraged an increase in clean energy production and use.
Cyril Ramaphosa has visited rains. Residents had to flee their homes as the whole of KwaZulu-Natal province had been declared a disaster area. Reports say at least 300 people have died after roads and hillsides were washed away and homes collapsed, with search for missing persons. NFF appoints Elisu Borso Obade Basi to head male national teams. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying tuned. On the foreign scene, Ukraine has been declared a crime scene as prosecutors helped recover hundreds of bodies from a mass grave in Bucha. Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan, who is the first Briton to lead the International Criminal Court, ICC, in The Hague, said there are reasonable grounds to believe war crimes had been committed. Attacks in the port city of Mariupol, including the targeting of a maternity hospital and a theater where 300 civilians died, is a violation of international humanitarian law, and those who ordered or executed it committed a war crime. Elsewhere, Britain will fly many asylum seekers 4,000 miles to Rwanda under a landmark plan to take back control of illegal immigration. Reports say it will initially cost British taxpayers $120 million to execute the deal. On business news, Chief Executive Officer of Tesla, Elon Musk, has offered to buy microblogging and social media platform Twitter. In a letter to Twitter's board, Musk said he believes Twitter will neither thrive nor serve its free speech societal imperative in its current form, stressing that Twitter needs to be transformed as a private company. Reports say the billionaire will offer 54.20 per share in cash, representing a 54% premium over the January 28 closing price. Recall that Musk had first disclosed a stake. Sun has commenced the regulation of conformity assessment to establish registration and regulation for national standards, standard marks, certification systems and licenses. Director General of Sun, Farouk Salim, made the disclosure while speaking at the inauguration of an impartiality committee to monitor and guide the National Registry of Conformity Assessment Practitioners in Abuja. He noted that the committee is set up to ensure that management system standard implementation, product testing, and certification are in compliance with international best practices, and assured that the scheme was to establish a directory of verified inspectors as well as inspection and certification bodies. In health, World Health Organization's Regional Office for Africa in Brazzaville, Congo, has announced that researchers in Botswana and South Africa have detected new sub-lineages of the Omicron variant and are carrying out further investigations to fully understand crucial traits such as infectivity and virulence. Who said experts are working with scientists and researchers in the two countries to deepen analysis of the sub-lineages which have whose regional director for Africa has assured that there is no cause for alarm with the emergence of the new sub-variants. In sports, there are strong indications that the United States may drop all charges against Nigerian sprinter Blessing Okabare, who is serving a 10-year ban over drugs offenses. Okabare was provisionally suspended for testing positive for human growth hormone in July 2021, hours before her 100-meter semi-finals at Tokyo Olympics. Reports say she was later handed a 10-year ban by the World Anti-Doping Agency. Still in sports, the Executive Committee of the Nigeria Football Federation has approved the recommendation of its Technical and Development Subcommittee for the appointment of Salisu Yusuf's team. Yusuf, who was head coach of the Super Eagles B when the team emerged runner-up of the African Nations Championship in Morocco in 2018, will work with Kennedy Boboye, Fatai Osho, Abubakar Bala, Mohammed and Fidelis Ikechukwu as assistant coach, while Eboborit Uyemajomere will serve as match analyst and Ike Shoromo and Suleiman Shwaibu as goalkeepers trainer 1 and 2. In other appointments, Ladan Boso retains his position as head coach of the under-20 boys and as assistant coach, while Baruwa Olatunji Aberdeen will serve as goalkeepers trainer. Reports say the Golden Eaglets will have Nduka Obade as head coach, with Ahmed Lawan Dankoli, amongst others, as assistant coach, while the future Eagles will have Patrick Bassi as head coach, amongst others. On our entertainment news, Ugandan film producer Raymond Malinga, whose work will feature in an upload. The 32-year-old Malinga is one of 14 filmmakers from South Africa, Egypt, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Uganda, and Kenya, who are contributing to the anthology of science, fiction, and fantasy stories set in Africa's future. Still on our entertainment news, popular stand-up comedian Julius Agu has announced his comedy show, Crack Ya Ribs, will be returning after a long halt. Agu, in an interview, said the show will make a comeback this Easter in Kaduna. The comedian, who empathized with victims of the Abuja-Kaduna train attack of March 28, where terrorists bombed the train, killed 8 passengers,